Our cultural synthesis project was done on horse slaughter in Europe for human consumption. There's a long history of hippophagy, more than 11,000 years on the European continent, mostly highlighted by times of hunger. People consumed horse meat no matter what happened, including a ban by the Pope in 730 AD. And the French Revolution of the late 18th century really brought this tradition into more modern times. The high Parisian cost of living in the mid-1800s caused the Parisian government to change the laws around eating horse meat, and the first horse meat butcher's shop opened shortly after. During times of war, taboos are often thrown aside, and horse meat consumption goes along with that. The Napoleonic campaigns saw the surgeon-in-chief serving horse soup to soldiers, and the British consumed horse meat through the 30s during times of starvation and siege, and New York consumed in the post-war food shortage in the 40s. In modern times, the US and Britain have moved away, while Italy and France particularly, and Spain some, also have continued the tradition.
Horse meat falls in the category of red meat, therefore it should not be a surprise that horse meat has a high vitamin and mineral content, basically meeting the daily requirement of an adult person. This includes a moderate intake of cholesterol and a high quantity of omega-3 acids. It is estimated that 250,000 horses are slaughtered for meat in the EU every year. Most of this happens in Italy and Spain, with some happening in other countries. All of this takes place in facilities approved by the member state component authorities, similar to the United States USDA, that sets in line rules and regulations. The horse meat that is produced in these facilities is primarily consumed in Italy, with some consumption taking place in other third world countries. One important thing to note is that horses from Romania have been forbade from entering other slaughter facilities in other countries because of risk of equine infectious anemia.
Horses in the United States hold a different place in the culture than they do in Europe. Horses are generally considered companion animals in America. Although many are used for work or entertainment, they are often held in high regard by their owners. Horses are not bred or raised for slaughter in the United States. In fact, many Americans believe that it is inhumane to do so. This belief likely arises from the perception that old, sick, injured, or distressed horses are shipped long distances to slaughter facilities where they may injure themselves. Although this perception may or may not have been accurate, the American people believed in it strongly enough to ban horse slaughter in the United States. This act did not prevent the sale of horses for slaughter in other countries, however, most notably Mexico and Canada. Each year, more than 100,000 horses are transported over international borders for this purpose, and some of this meat is marketed for human consumption. One potential conflict between European countries that regularly eat horse meat and the United States is the American belief that horses may suffer animal welfare abuses both in transit and at horse slaughter facilities, as they are flight animals. Another potential conflict is that the American culture generally holds horses in high esteem and perceives them as intelligent animals. Therefore, in these areas, it is generally believed that consuming horse meat is either unethical or unacceptable. A third notable conflict between the US and EU regarding horse slaughter is the drugs used to treat horses in the US that are later sent to slaughter. Since horses are considered companion animals in the US, they are treated differently than animals bred for slaughter when they develop common illnesses. Many are given pharmaceuticals that have been banned for use in food-producing animals. Horses originating in the United States destined for slaughter in Mexico have been found to contain drug residues banned for use in food animals, including phenylbutazone. Some of the meat originating from these horses is then exported to the EU for human consumption, posing health risks for those that consume this meat. As a result, the EU has introduced regulations that require veterinary medical records for all horse meat imported into the European Union, greatly limiting the amount of American horse meat that is consumed in Europe.
The major difference between the European and American view is the use of horse slaughter for meat consumption, with around 250,000 horses slaughtered yearly in Europe, mainly in Italy, Belgium, France, Netherlands, and Luxembourg. The meat is sold in a variety of ways, such as fillets and stews, to indistinguishable ingredients in cheap fast food. Although there is popular meat consumption in Europe, there is protection of the animals for slaughter, such as suitable equipment required, animals not being brutalized or mistreated, and provided care if not slaughtered right away. They also must be stunned before bled out. Compare that to the American view, where horse meat is not popular and was only eaten after wars when other meats were too expensive. There was also a recent ban in the U.S. due to pressure from animal rights groups, and the USDA was banned from using federal funds to inspect horse going to slaughter for human consumption. But horse slaughter in the U.S. has made a comeback in Wyoming in 2010, allowing horse slaughter in response to the rise of abandoned horses in the state, and other states easing restrictions on horse slaughter as well.
As veterinarians overseeing the health and care of horses going to human consumption, the first impact is taking into consideration, as previously stated, medications that are commonly used. Phenylbutazone, deworming agents, and fly sprays are commonly used with horses. Veterinarians will need to determine other treatment options or no treatment, and if treated with medications such as these, taking into consideration withdrawal periods before sending to slaughter and consumption. In addition to medications, there will need to be organized systems established for identifying which horses are going to consumption and those that are not. Communication with regulatory officials will also need to be put in place, and keeping adequate pharmaceutical records for each horse so that documentation of medications and treatments can be easily found.